process of acquiring through experience new and relatively enduring information or behaviors. As humans, we learn in multiple ways. We will be focusing on learning by observation. Albert Bandura stated that learning cannot be based merely on associations or reinforcements. He mentioned this in his book, Social Learning Theory, which was published in 1977. He said his focus was on an observation-based form of learning, which he proved through his Bobo doll experiment. He said that children observe their surroundings and how the people around them behave, especially those close to them, like caregivers and siblings. Learning by observation can play out in multiple ways. Modeling is when through the process of observing we begin to imitate a specific behavior. It has been theorized that by watching someone do something, we ourselves do that thing in our imagination. If we follow what Vygotsky theorized about development, we are more likely to remember something when we see it in our environment and then imagine ourselves doing it. We are heavily affected by nurture. The more we see someone do something, especially at a young age, the more likely we are to replay it in our imagination. And then the more likely we are to actually do it or avoid doing it. If we observe that a behavior has negative effects, we are less likely to do it in order to avoid punishment. This is called extrinsic motivation. In order for someone to properly retain what they have learned from observing, they must be paying attention to what is going on. They also must have the ability to retain and understand, so that later they can recall what they learned to memory. You then must try to recreate or implement the behavior or idea that you learned at a later point in time. Motivation will play a role in how likely you are to replicate the behavior. All of these things can be done consciously or subconsciously. From a neurological standpoint, a mirror neuron fires in our brain when we see others perform certain actions and then we ourselves perform those actions. If we see a loved one in pain, mirror neurons will make us experience some of the same feelings and emotions. Here we have an example of extrinsic motivation. The first subject is cooking, being watched by the second subject. When the first subject removes the pan, she accidentally touches the hot stove. Now, our second subject is cooking. When she removes the pan, she remembers what she observed happen to the first subject, so she makes sure not to touch the hot stove. The second subject was motivated to learn out of her fear of being hurt. Here is an example of intrinsic motivation. The first subject is playing soccer while being watched by the second subject. Because the second subject wanted to know how to play, she observed what the first subject did and then was able to later do it herself. The second subject was motivated to learn by her desire to play.
Yep.
Positive, constructive, helpful behavior, the opposite of antisocial behavior. To put this in English, prosocial behavior is observational learning played out in a way that is helpful and beneficial to society. Antisocial behavior is observational learning played out in a way that is harmful to society.
Sometimes I